They say demons don't feel, they trade. They don't love, they bargain. But what happens when a demon breaks the rule and gives his heart away? This isn't just a story about darkness or desire. It's about a girl who had nothing, yet became everything, and a demon who was meant to take from her, but instead gave her everything he had. Her name is Kaia Bassi, and this is how her story begins. Kaia Bassi was more than just a beautiful woman. She was a force, the CEO of Kaia Luxe Cosmetics, and the woman behind Smile Light International, a charity that touched the lives of orphans in Korea and Africa. Her heart for those children ran deep, because once she had been one of them. Her parents, both orphans, had survived by leaning on each other. But fate was cruel. At age 10, Kaia lost them in a tragic motor accident. And just 1 week later, she was adopted. Not by just anyone, but by chairwoman Yoon Sai-bin, the most powerful businesswoman in Seoul. It was unexpected. Why would a Korean billionaire adopt an African child? People whispered. They gossiped. But Madame Yoon never cared. To her, Kaia was a daughter, no less than her own blood. From the day she entered that luxurious mansion, Kaia swore loyalty. She followed Madame Yoon's every teaching. And she survived, in a place where many thought she didn't belong. Outsiders saw Kaia as flawless, bold, brilliant, unshaken. She was feared in boardrooms, respected in business circles, and crowned with awards, both locally and internationally. But behind that strength was a girl who grew up in a cold house, a girl who knew she was never truly wanted there, not by Madame Yoon's children. They smiled in public, but behind closed doors, Kaia was just tolerated. Still, she stayed, because Madame Yoon loved her deeply, and that love was real. But love wasn't enough to fix everything. Yoon Tae-jin, the first son, director of Yoon Corporation, was Kaia's greatest enemy in disguise. To the media, he was perfect, handsome, charismatic, the ideal heir. But behind the flash of cameras was a man consumed by pride and resentment. Tae-jin never saw the company as a responsibility. To him, it was a throne, a right, one that Kaia's presence threatened. Madame Yoon saw through him. She had cleaned up his messes too many times. The scandals, the lies, the selfish choices. She loved him as a mother, but she no longer trusted him. Deep down, she regretted enabling him. But it was too late to change him. Then, there was Yoon Sunmi, the youngest child, a stunning beauty, a rising actress, and Korea's sweetheart online. Her face was on magazine covers, makeup ads, and movie posters. To the public, Kaia and Sunmi were graceful sisters, elegant, united, flawless. But behind those smiles was a quiet storm. Sunmi had always lived in Kaia's shadow. Kaia got the respect, the business features, the trust. Sunmi got the followers, the fans, but not the recognition she craved most. Her mother's full admiration. Growing up, Sunmi once adored Kaia, but comparison turned admiration into silent envy. Kaia saw it. She felt it. But never fought it. She tried, helping with school projects, protecting her from the media, supporting her quietly from the shadows. But when Sunmi's jealousy became louder, Kaia withdrew. Still, Kaia never stopped loving her. From afar, she helped her land brand deals, secretly, managed her PR disasters, silently, and never once took the credit. She never used her power to ruin her. Not because she was weak, but because she refused to let bitterness live in her heart. During family dinners, Kaia stayed kind. She gave advice when asked. She showed up for movie premieres. She smiled, even when it hurt, because Kaia knew something most people didn't. Peace is power, and she would not let pain rewrite her story. In a family where love was often conditional, Kaia chose to love unconditionally, even if it meant loving from a distance. But all of that, everything she built, every wound she endured, was about to be tested, because fate was about to lead her to a man who wasn't a man at all. And then there was Ji Tae-hun, the only nephew of Madame Yoon, son of her late brother, legal counsel of Yoon Corporation, occasionally sitting on corporate ethics boards, advising government bodies, mentoring junior lawyers, respected, reliable, rational. But behind all the accolades was the boy who once held Kaia's hand when others called her names, the teenager who snuck her snacks during family events, the young man who looked at her not as an orphan, but as a girl with intelligence, charm, and heart. He'd loved her for years, quietly, never confessing, partly out of respect, partly because he saw how guarded she became. mostly because she never looked at him the way he looked at her. Still, he remained her silent defender, shielding her legally, emotionally, even physically when needed. Unconditionally, and though Kaia's love life was nothing to write home about, Tae-hyun never mocked it. He simply watched, protected, waited. Madam Yoon had set her up on countless dates over the years. Foreigners, African CEOs, good-looking actors, even men who only liked women like her, those with money and power and mystery. But Kaia never found interest in any of them. Most of those dates felt forced. She only went to make Madam Yoon happy, and even when she gave a few men a chance, it never lasted. Her heart simply refused to lie. Still, Madam Yoon hoped, worried that if Kaia didn't find someone soon, she'd be left completely alone, especially if illness took her away too soon. So on this particular day, she made a deal. One last date. One more attempt. Kaia would go out with the man she picked, and in return, Madam Yoon would finally start her cancer treatment. She begged Kaia to try, to truly give it a chance. "Stop making these men look stupid falling for you," she had said with a shaky smile. Kaia had no choice. She agreed. Kaia arrived at the fancy rooftop restaurant as instructed. Wearing a soft cream blouse and nude heels, hair pinned in an elegant updo, she tried to appear calm, even as nerves twisted in her stomach. She scanned the room, spotted a lone table with the description she was given near the balcony, and walked towards it. A man sat there, handsome, book in hand, dark brows furrowed in deep concentration. Clean-cut, sophisticated, sharp-featured. She smiled politely and sat across from him. "Sorry I'm late." Traffic was insane. The man slowly lowered the book from his face. She blinked. He was striking, a sharp jawline, icy eyes. But that expression? Cold, disdainful. "Who are you?" he asked dryly. "I'm Kaia. We were supposed to meet." Madam Yoon set this up. A pause. Then, with a slight scoff, he said, "I booked this table, alone." Her smile wavered. Confusion flickered. Was this not the guy? Madam Yoon never showed her the men's pictures. Said it spoiled the surprise. Still, Kaia forced a graceful chuckle. "Wait, this isn't a blind date?" The man gave a small, exasperated sigh. "No, I don't do blind dates. I came here to escape people like you, not meet them." Kaia clenched her jaw. He was good-looking, sure. But this attitude? Appalling. "Well, you're clearly not the man I came to meet. And thank God for that." He looked up, eyebrow raised. "If you need help, there are better ways than crashing someone's dinner." She smiled tightly and slipped her business card across the table. Kaia Bassi would never ever need help. He gave a dry chuckle and returned the gesture, dropping his card lazily in front of her. She picked it up, paused. "A bookstore?" He nodded. "Ghost Leaf. Rare books. First editions. Quiet minds only." She blinked. "Interesting." Not really. She had expected more. Just as she stood up, knowing this was a disaster, a loud commotion erupted at the restaurant entrance. A group of mafia-looking men walked in. Sharp suits, heavy boots, scanning the tables. They weren't here for dinner, and their eyes landed on him. Kaia didn't wait to find out what that meant. She turned to leave, fast. As she was about to take her leave, she slammed right into a waiter holding a large, multi-tiered cake. It tilted, about to collapse, but arms caught her mid-fall. Strong, steady, warm. Siong Jae-rion held her against his chest, steadying her with practiced ease. For a split second, everything stopped. Time, noise, even her heartbeat. There was something in his eyes. Fierce, focused, protective. Then he released her almost immediately and turned back to check. "The cake. Seriously?" she asked, wide-eyed. He sighed in relief. "It's handcrafted. Waited for a long time to get this done," Kaia snapped. "I almost broke my neck. And yes, watch your step next time." Kaia gaped at him. "I hope your cake chokes you." He smiled faintly. "Hope not to see you again. You're the worst man I've never meant to meet." And with that, she walked out of the restaurant, head held high, heart pounding for reasons she couldn't explain. Meanwhile, a black car was parked across the street. As Kaia had texted him, inside, Tae-hyun sat, phone in hand, watching the restaurant. He'd followed her, just in case. She didn't know, but on seeing her text, he felt happy he was the only one she remembered to call. He always made sure someone was watching her back, whether she saw it or not. He saw her storm out, eyes glistening, lips tight. She entered the car and didn't speak. He turned gently. "Didn't go well?" She didn't answer. Just stared out the window, then whispered, "Maybe I'm just meant to be alone." Tae-hyun swallowed hard. His hand almost reached for hers. Almost. Instead, he whispered back, "No one who sees you could ever want to leave you alone." And beside her, his heart broke a little more. Seong was something humans only read about in books, watched in movies, or prayed against in church. But, unknown to them, he was real, and had existed on Earth for over 400 years. His name was Siong Jae-rion. He owned the Gilded Page, a centuries-old bookstore in the heart of Seoul. He granted desires, but only to those willing to sign a soul-bound contract. His deals always came with a cost, something precious. It could be a memory, a voice, true love, or even one emotion, taken forever. He never forced anyone. He tempted. He charmed. He waited. Then, he collected with a chilling smile. That day, he had gone out as usual to collect what was owed by someone who signed a deal with him 10 years ago. Hours later, that same person, a powerful mafia boss, was found lying dead. Witnesses last saw Siong Jae-rion leaving the scene. Seeking revenge, the mafia sent men after him. They found him calmly enjoying a cake he had waited an entire month for, specially made by his favorite baker. The moment they destroyed it, something inside him snapped. Before they could lift a hand to strike, he turned them all into squirrels, his favorite animal. Only after finishing his tea and feeling satisfied did he snap his fingers again, returning them to human form without a word. Siong Jae-rion was quiet but powerful. Most knew him as the refined owner of the Gilded Page, one of Seoul's most treasured bookstores. His calm personality and love for rare books made him a favorite among artists, spiritualists, tourists, and researchers. But those closest to him knew the truth. He wasn't quite human. His life was strictly organized and surrounded by only two trusted women. Madame Jae-rion, an older woman and his longest companion, was the first to form a contract with him. Since then, she had remained by his side, loyal and protective. She managed the bookstore's daily affairs and kept watch over everyone and everything. Then there was Yoonji, a young woman who worked in the store. Years ago, he saved her from her abusive uncle. She knew his secret, but never spoke of it. She respected him deeply and carried silent feelings she didn't dare express. He rarely formed close bonds. But that began to change the day he met Kaia. He entered his private office, frustrated about his ruined cake and the chaos of his day. Madame Jae-rion brought him his favorite tea and handed over the documents for the upcoming book auction. While he calmed down, Yoonji walked in. When she found out the reason for his foul mood was a woman, she said nothing. But something inside her twisted quietly. Meanwhile, Kaia was on her way back when she saw the news spreading fast online. A woman had been hospitalized after allegedly using Kaia Lux's best-selling lipstick, Obsidian Kiss. Within hours, her brand reputation was under fire. Hashtags trended. Stock prices dropped. Retailers started pulling the product. Influencers backed out of deals. Everything she had built over the years was collapsing. Back at her glass-walled office, with Seoul's skyline behind her, Kaia watched everything unfold. Her board members panicked. Her PR team begged her to issue a public apology. She stayed still, calm, cold, calculating. Then she said, with a firm tone, "No apology. Not when we haven't sinned. Someone planted this, and they'll get what they deserve soon." That night, she called Hyun, her legal counsel and most trusted confidant. "I need you to dig into our supply chain," she said, her voice steady but with an underlying urgency. "Especially Seoul Glow Labs. Someone tampered with our formula." 3 days later, Kaia held a private press conference. Everyone expected tears and excuses. Instead, she arrived in a sharp black suit, no makeup. Just her glowing natural skin. She revealed everything. Security footage of a masked intruder switching ingredient labels. Lab reports showing a synthetic toxin had been added. And proof that the culprit worked for Velvet Soul, their biggest competitor, using a fake identity. She ended the press conference with a single line that exploded online within minutes. "To the person who thought I'd fall quietly, I hope your lawyer is prettier than your lies." Sales bounced back. Contracts were restored. And Kaia made sure no one would ever touch her production team again. But more than clearing her name, Kaia crushed her enemies. Without shouting, without begging. She used proof, power, and poise. The day of Madame Yoon's 60th birthday arrived, and as expected, the event was lavish, with everyone from the family and close friends gathered. The media was in full force, capturing every smile, every glance. The compulsory family photo was a must, and it was understood by all that everyone had to be present for the picture. Madame Yoon's eldest son, his wife, and their 2 children, a girl and a boy, were there, with Sunmi, ever the social media enthusiast, flooding her Instagram with images of herself and her mother. But there was one who stood apart. Kaia, always observant, arrived quietly, her aura strong and composed. As soon as Madame Yoon spotted her, her face lit up with warmth, an expression of genuine happiness. Kaia had always known that Madame Yoon, despite their complicated relationship, valued her like family. Kaia wasn't one to keep her distance, not with someone she cared for so deeply. Despite subtle tensions hanging in the air, she knew Madame Yoon would never tolerate any estrangement, especially when everyone expected harmony. Kaia didn't hesitate. She joined the family for the photo. The family gathered, posing for the picture, everyone wearing the same practiced smiles. But underneath the calmness of the moment, there was something unspoken. Each person, in their own way, was hiding something. They all knew this picture wasn't just a memory. It was a frozen moment of peace before the storm. The truth, hidden beneath the surface, would reveal itself soon enough. The following day was one Kaia had always cherished, the day to honor her late parents. A day of remembrance, where she sought solace in the memories of the life they had shared. She returned to their old house, the one she had bought and preserved as a sanctuary. It was here she found peace, surrounded by the echoes of the past. The house, a piece of her heart, was filled with memories of laughter, love, and loss. Kaia sat quietly, the photo of her parents resting in her hands. She reflected on the life they had built, how they had moved to Korea in search of a better future, and how they had worked for Madame Yoon before their tragic deaths. Kaia had been their joy, their only daughter, and now, she sat alone, feeling the weight of their absence. As she immersed herself in these memories, a sudden, loud crash startled her. The quiet of the house was shattered. Instinctively, she grabbed an object, prepared to defend herself. She stepped cautiously toward the back of the house, her mind racing. Before she could react, something struck her sharply from behind. The force of it sent her crashing to the ground, and the world went black. When Kaia regained consciousness, she was no longer in the house. Her surroundings were unfamiliar, dark, and cold. Her hands were bound, and panic began to creep in. She was disoriented, but forced herself to stay calm. She needed to think. She needed a way out. Her captor, an unknown man, was at her side, preparing to finish what he had started. But Kaia wasn't as unconscious as he thought. Her instincts kicked in, and with a sudden burst of strength, she kicked him hard enough to break free from his grip. The shock of her resistance bought her just enough time to escape. She stumbled out of the room, her heart pounding in her chest as she ran through the unfamiliar terrain. Her mind was a blur of fear and confusion, but she kept running, knowing she had no choice. As she ran through the night, her feet pounding the ground, she caught sight of a figure standing at a distance. Someone who stood out even in the chaos. Seong. He had stood atop a rooftop, his gaze sharp, scanning the world below. It was then that he felt it, the call of a soul in desperate need. His powers, finely tuned to sense those in turmoil, pulled him toward her. The connection was undeniable, like a magnet drawing him in. Seong recognized her. Kaia, the woman he had accidentally crossed paths with not long ago. The woman whose presence had intrigued him, leaving a lingering impression. Kaia, in her panic, saw Seong's silhouette in the distance. She had no idea who he was, but in that moment, she had nowhere else to turn. She ran toward him, desperate, her heart racing. Seong's gaze softened as he saw her approaching. Her fear was palpable, and for the first time, a flicker of something resembling empathy stirred within him. But he knew the rules. He didn't help for free, not without a price. Please, Kaia gasped as she neared him, her breath heavy with fear. I need your help. I can't do this alone. Seong's eyes darkened with resolve. I don't help without something in return. Kaia's heart skipped a beat, and she faltered for a moment. She didn't understand. What do you mean? My life is at risk. Please. Before she could finish, the hired man, the one who had tried to kill her, emerged, his gun aimed straight at Kaia. He fired. Kaia gasped as she felt the bullet pierce her chest. The pain was immediate, intense. But before she could fall, Seong's fury erupted. With a flick of his hand, the man was sent crashing through the windshield of his car, a force so powerful it seemed almost unreal. Seong knelt beside Kaia, his expression unreadable. His hand hovered over her wound, and in an instant, he healed her. The pain vanished, but the confusion remained. As Kaia lay in his arms, her mind racing, she felt herself slipping in and out of consciousness. She could barely comprehend what had happened, but there was one thing she knew. She owed her life to him. When she finally woke, she found herself in a clinic, surrounded by sterile white walls. Her body felt oddly whole, and there was no sign of the injury she had just sustained. The nurses told her that they had found her outside, unconscious, and brought her in. But as her memories returned, so did the flood of questions. What happened? Who had tried to kill her? And why had Seong, the mysterious man, saved her? Kaia couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was only the beginning. She had been thrust into a world that no longer made sense. A world where she was no longer welcome, where her past seemed to follow her every step. But she knew one thing for certain. She was no longer just Kaia, the woman who had once been a stranger to everyone. She was now entangled in something far bigger than herself.
Hello guys, thank you so much for watching this story to the end. Please do not forget to like, share, comment and subscribe for more amazing story. I still remain your favorite girl, Onye, all the way from Nigeria. See you all next week.